Gentlemen, we have an extra special episode of No Doubter for you this week, coming all the way from across the pond from London, England. Please welcome George Martin, aka Astros fan UK. George, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's a pleasure. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
We're
well,
doing
man. You are our first ever international guest that we've had here on the show. So
Fantastic.
it's fantastic the opportunity here. Love that we're able to get you on. You're doing a huge favor for us, coming live to us from the middle of the night where you are. So we
Yes,
certainly
sir.
appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate that. It's a privilege.
Oh yeah, man. So, I've been following you for a while, George. It's just I mean, we're just going to kind of get into it because I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Hmm.
We're starting this interview hot and heavy. You're in
Yep.
London, England,
Yes, sir.
and
Yep.
I think the best way to start this off is to just go with a super open-ended question.
Hmm.
You born and raised in the UK, right?
Yeah, correct.
I
Yep.
mean, I
Absolutely right.
mean, the accent gives it away. I mean, how in the world did you become an Astros fan?
Oh wow. Yeah, it's a story I've told it a lot of times, but I love to tell it, so I'll tell it again.
There you go.
It's yeah. I've been an Astros fan for 22 years now.
Okay.
I am, well, as much as I don't like to admit, I'm getting on a little bit. I'm 37. I'm not not a young buck as I was when I first got into the game. Living in the UK. Naturally, as you might expect, the profile of Major League Baseball is low. I mean, we are. I'll get to it later. We are trying to grow that. But in terms of going back to 1999, when I was 14 years old, again had virtually no profile whatsoever. So I played a lot of different sports, played a lot of cricket, and I happened to be up late as a 14-year-old. And the TV was on, and one of the channels over here, network channel, was showing the feed of ESPN Sunday Night Baseball or Wednesday Night Baseball. Happened to be up, happened to be watching it, and I was just fascinated to see this game, which obviously it's not cricket. It doesn't have that many similarities other than the fact it's a bat and the ball, but naturally kind of sort of it lit that kind of curiosity in me to learn a bit more. I had no connections to America whatsoever in my family or friends, so I kind of had a free reign of who to choose as a team I was going to support. Naturally, you have to, if you're going to get into any sport, you have to pick either a team, or if it's an individual sport, a person, whoever that you
Yeah.
want to get behind. Because if you don't, then you're not really going to have that drive and the interest to follow up and fully immerse yourself in the sport. So
Mhm.
I thought long and hard over who I wanted to support. I didn't want to go the glory hunting route, so the Yankees were always off the table from moment one,
Exactly.
and I'm
Respect.
glad, yeah, and I'm glad that was the case all these years on. But yeah, so I wanted to pick a team that wasn't going to win every year, but also wasn't going to be terrible. The Astros at that time had obviously had the Killer Bees. They had, Bagwell and Biggio still in their pomp, and just even the uniforms I liked. But the one thing which may surprise you, which really drew me to the Astros, was, again, coming from a cricketing background, was actually Mike Hampton. As a
Mm.
pitcher who could also hit very well. He was quite okay. It doesn't compare remotely to the way Shohei Ohtani is these days, but in terms of just generally speaking, he was a very competent hitter for a pitcher. And in cricket, you have all rounders. You call them a two-way hitter in baseball. So it was quite interesting for me to see that, and I immediately felt an affinity with Mike Hampton in terms of what he could do. So yeah, after that '99 season, I said, right, I'm going to support the Astros because of Mike Hampton. So lo and behold, before you'll know where I'm going with this, before the 2000 season, he was traded to the New York Mets. So I thought, oh God, what do I do? I said, do I follow Hampton to the Mets and become a Mets fan, or do I stick with the team that I've picked and go that route? I chose the Astros, stuck with them, and here I am, 22 years later.
Wow. So much to unpack there, man. Mike Hampton. I'm aware of Mike Hampton. I was born in 92,
Mm,
and so I went to the Dome and got to see Hampton live.
yeah.
So the name definitely reminds me. But us, they were in the National League up until this year. Pitchers batted or had the ability to bat. I'm just bringing up his baseball reference. Mike Hampton in that 1999 season, he finished second in the Cy Young voting. My goodness gracious, what
Was
an
it 20
unbelievable!
wins? I think he got 20 wins.
He got 22 wins.
And Jose Lima, rest in peace. I think he also had did he also get 20 wins, or is I forget, he had a great season as well.
I need to pull that up, but
sorry to put you on the spot there. But yeah.
no. But the whole reason why I bring it up is just like we completely disregard any NL pitcher's ability to hit unless they're Zach Greinke or DeGrom was doing well last year. But it's so interesting to have your different perspective. You're watching from across the pond and you're seeing Hampton hit and you're drawn to that out of anything, out of all. It's that.
It was you got to remember, as a completely clean slate, it was like, a very in a baseball sense very impressionable. So obviously seeing what I was seeing, taking in the game for the first time as a 14-year-old. So I didn't, I don't have the kind of stereotypical traditional, if you imagine an American family, everyone, the kids are growing up around the game, going to the ballpark as 5, 6, 7-year-olds and kind of learning that way. For me, it's always been, I always say it's almost like learning a second language, because I had to learn, you had to learn it from scratch. And some of the things which, even the way you talk about the sport, the way we talk about things, naturally there's a big difference between sort of British, not just colloquialisms, but also just the way the way we speak about sports is different over here from the way Americans talk about it, and it's trying to find the right way to do it, so you're not kind of aping the way Americans talk about the sport, but at the same time not trying to talk about it in such a British way that it kind of sounds sometimes a bit corny when if you the way that I would talk about footballers and soccer is not the same way I would talk about baseball. And I feel like if I was talking about baseball the same way, it's like, for example, if you're talking about scores, in America you'd say 2-0 or 2-0. Over here, if you're talking about a football or soccer game, you say like 2-0.
Yes.
So if I hear, I sometimes cringe a little bit when I hear like that's just me being weird. But like if I hear one of my fellow UK baseball fans say 2-0 or like 3-0, it makes me kind of go like, it doesn't quite sound right. So and again, it's like you have to understand the territory, and even if you're talking, you say defense. We don't in England, we don't say defense, we say defense. But like if I'm talking about baseball, I'm going to say offense, with an S, and I'm going to say defense. So yeah, so it's just, for me, I find that is more is a better way to do it. But I guess each to their own. It's just probably me being slightly old, but
Yeah, it just seems like you're willing to adapt and willing to speak the lingo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that. Oh,
Bear, I mean,
sorry, Bear, you cut out there briefly, but go ahead. I was going to make a point.
No. Yeah. I really admire your approach to viewing the game, George, because I mean, I guess it's kind of the inverse for me, because I really admire, and I'm not going to say soccer because obviously that's a very demeaning term when it comes to your actual football. So when I watch actual football, not American football, but I love watching English Premier League football. It's just I haven't chosen a team. I am where you were when you were 14, where it's like I don't know what to pick, and I don't know. I don't want to. I just love casually watching, but
I can tell you that the correct team to support is Chelsea. But let's move on.
Oh man, well, I might have to do it. I mean, they are owned by a Russian oligarch. So
well, not anymore. Because then the ownership will change because of the sanctions which were placed on Abramovich by the UK government. Pretty much enforced the sale of the club, and it's been a hot topic for the last 2-3 months over here. It got finalised, and as an Astros fan, it dismays me. As a Chelsea fan, it's good news. It's what's his name, Bowley, who's part of the Dodgers ownership, which, like I said, from a baseball perspective, makes me want to puke. But from a football perspective, is good because if he brings to Chelsea what he's done as part of the Dodgers kind of ownership group setup, etc., it would bode very well for Chelsea. But yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet taste in terms of that connection. But yeah, I'm a huge Chelsea fan, as you probably guessed. So that is my first language if you're talking about sporting things. So yeah, I would say
Yes.
I would say choose Chelsea, but yeah, just see what you enjoy. I don't know if you've got any connections to the UK at all. If you don't, then yeah, just see what works for you. But yeah, I love Chelsea and Astros for me.
Yeah, true. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, I'm aware of the big five, and I view kind of like the big. Is it? I don't know if it's four or five. Forgive my
Well,
ignorance.
they say six, but honestly, it's a strange one because at the end of the day, at the moment, you've got Manchester City who are fantastic. You've got Liverpool who've got a great team, like really good team as well. Chelsea, we are very, very good in the cup competitions, and again, that's a concept which doesn't really exist in American sport. You've got
Yeah.
imagine in baseball sense. Imagine if you had the normal season, but then you also had a knockout competition, the same way that you have like in the playoffs, but just running separately from the league as a totally different prize to win at the end. I think that would be amazing, to be honest. If you
Seriously.
can you imagine that? Like imagine a one-off games knockout competition, and the best, it just goes and I can imagine that being crazy, but it's never ever going to happen. So yeah,
Oh man, yeah. The top tier teams, Dodgers, Yankees, Astros, I mean Mets,
yeah,
they're just
Rays, all these ones. Yeah, it would be yeah,
duking it
it would be
out.
crazy. Yeah, I feel like it would be a huge money spinner if it was handled correctly. But no, I think that baseball in particular is so rooted in its traditions that they wouldn't even it wouldn't forget it wouldn't get the green light. It wouldn't even get to the position where you'd be voting on it to potentially get into a position to get a vote. It wouldn't get off the ground in any shape or form. Similarly, imagine, I don't know if you're familiar with the like sort of promotion and relegation that we have in football over here
I am very
between the
aware of
leagues.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, again, imagine if a team is tanking. Well, it would kill tanking in baseball instantly. Imagine if
The Reds.
one of this, or yeah, all the open days. Let's say the open days have a terrible season, and then they get relegated from Major League Baseball, and get replaced by by a AAA team. It'd be incredible. Like imagine the drama of imagine the drama of the last day of the season where a team needs to win to stay in Major League Baseball, and then the scenes at the minor league club when they get promoted to Major League Baseball. It would be absolutely. It would be ridiculous. Obviously, it's a complete fantasy land to even think about it, but it does entertain me thinking about that every once in a while because it would completely change the entire sport. But yeah, like I said, traditions are so strong in baseball that it's very fixed. I think people get extremely offended just even the thought of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
pro sports over
man.
here too is so connected to like corporate dollars and then the
Yeah.
television deals that
Yeah.
you have and everything. So yeah, especially in the major metro area, like if the Yankees had like a horrible season, the Yankees got
Yeah,
relegated,
imagine it. Yeah, it
and
would
you've
be
got one of
unreal.
their some feeder league farm system that's in their place. It's
It
yeah,
would
that
be
would
incredible. But yeah.
Yeah, seriously, it's just relegation. That whole term is just a foreign concept to us Americans over here.
Yeah.
It is true competition. I mean, it's just we just become so complacent over here, and y'all take relegation very seriously. It is true
Yeah.
competition.
Hmm.
You can create a football league, move up through the ranks, League One, Champions
Yeah,
League, all the way
pyramid.
up.
Yeah, it's a pyramid system. Yeah.
Yeah, you can start from the bottom and work your way up. It's a DIY kind of system. And I mean, the case in point was when there was that little rumblings about the Super League. And when
Yeah.
that happened, it got shut down fast.
Yeah,
I
big time.
mean,
The fans were not going to have it. Yeah, the fans did not want to have that at all.
Oh yeah, that's what makes football in the UK special. That's the whole point of it. Even the
Mm.
fans of the Big Six, they were like, "No, I mean, we don't want this." But I don't know. We can go off on a tangent on that. But basically, so let's go back.
Yeah.
You're 14. What sports had you played at that point?
Mainly cricket, play a bit of squash as well, a lot of tennis, even a bit of snooker. But yeah, it's yeah, a little bit of football, but I mean not an immense amount, but sort of standard stuff at school. But yeah, cricket was always the one which I took very seriously. I would love to play again. It's a shoulder injury which has seen me not playing the past, well, however many years. I certainly haven't given up on it. It's a rotator cuff issue, but yeah, yeah, I love playing that sport, and it yeah definitely is something which I've sort of held fondly growing up.
Nice. So, what is it about baseball
Oh, it's what I mean. Baseball has a very
that
unique character, and I think it's the way that that it has many nuances and facets and different layers to it. And I think even if you compare the regular season vibe versus the postseason vibe, I love both of them in different ways. I think that during the regular season, you can watch a game, you can chill out, you can kind of enjoy it with your friends, and in any sort of setting, you can be at home, you can be out in a bar, you can be kind of in and out of the game if you really want to. You don't have to be sort of laser focused on every pitch. And then you've got October where the crowds become kind of rabid and so intense, and it's brilliant because the stakes are so high that and we've been very blessed as Astros fans to have that privilege of that pressure year in year out for the last 5 years,
yeah.
and I wouldn't change it for the world. I really hope that we can look at this season certainly looks very positive, and I think the future with how we keep unearthing these gems in the international market and just within our own farm system, who aren't necessarily that heralded, but we seem to keep producing them, especially pitchers, and it's yeah, long may it continue because I love that about baseball because when you see it's all on the line and your heart's beating so fast watching your team pitching, you're protecting a one-run lead. There's runners on second and third, and then your defense comes up with a clutch play that just completely nails it. And we've seen those various plays, whether it's Bregman in 2017 when he's making that throw to home against the Yankees, or whether it's again the Yankees, whether it's Brantley with that incredible catch and throw to make that double play in 2019. What these
Ooh.
iconic moments, and it's yeah. I mean, I love that. I mean, there's so much to love about baseball. Even if you're looking at it from an aesthetic, a design point of view. I mean, just looking at it again, not just the Astros, but just generally speaking, I love baseball uniforms. I love the color schemes. I love the difference in character between the different cities, the different teams, the different clubs, their different histories, and I think that's it makes for this kind of smorgasbord, if you like, of choice as an outside fan, which is really cool, and seeing the way that it's over here because I'm part of a group, MLB UK community. You may have seen on social media as well. We hold live watch events during the season under this hashtag MLB Meetups UK. We're working alongside MLB Europe and Baseball Softball UK and a couple of other groups as well. And we're really trying to make it a nationwide movement to try and get people together to get new fans on board. We want to celebrate old fans, celebrate new fans. We want to be more diverse. We don't want it to be just we don't want it to be just the domain of 25 to 35-year-old white males. We want it to be open to everybody. And it's just a beautiful thing. Baseball is a sport which is very, very good at bringing people together. And it's got a certain warmth to it. I'm not someone who ascribes to the kind of schmaltzy kind of Field of Dreams type vibe. It's not really my thing. And I think that sometimes baseball does play on that kind of thing a bit too much. But it has a natural charm and a natural togetherness outside of that, which doesn't need to be manufactured. It's just a great sport. I love it, and I'm very much someone who will fight baseball's corner.
There you go.
The way
I
you've
mean,
described it, George, is I love how you've described kind of, especially what it looks like when you get around to the postseason there, because I think that's kind of a commonality across all the American sports. Is in our postseasons, like you will, yeah, American football, basketball, hockey, uh, yeah, baseballs, everything. The commonality across all of them is when you get to the postseason, the game just kind of slows down. Like it's a different, like you play in the same amount of time, but it's is during the regular season, but it's a
It's a different
different
animal.
pace.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a
big
different pace.
time.
It's a different animal. And like I'm thinking back to whenever I'm tuning in to postseason baseball when October rolls around every year, is it? I don't know if you would say this, but
Hmm.
an October uh, playoff baseball game kind of almost has a little bit of like a big time soccer match type of feel to it
Yeah,
in terms of how the
definitely.
crowd cadence is. It's like, it's
Hmm.
like these stadiums are packed full tight with people, and like things are like a very quiet at times, but then like in unison, like the crowd's voice rises, like it's all the same reaction if a great catch is made. It has that kind of feeling almost of like, yeah, watching a soccer match, and then just like everybody absolutely
Definitely.
loses, like when the ball goes in the goal, everybody loses their mind. It's the same way when a
Yeah.
home run is hit, or you get a nice line drive to push across a couple of base runners. It's that same type of thing. I think
Mm.
that's really neat to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would even add, like I was saying, like a great, great defensive play would kind of elicit the same reaction if you're like I said, if you're in a really tight situation and you, especially obviously you're at home and you pull off this great play to get out of an inning, you hear that roar, and even through the TV or whatever you're watching it through, you can still feel that. Obviously, I'm desperate to get out to Houston. It's 22 years and I've still not been out there yet. And I'm every time I plan to get out there, something contrives to scupper it, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's a lockout or whatever. So I'm hoping, and I'm crossing my fingers and saying my prayers that next year, 2023, is finally going to be the one. I'm definitely sort of nailing my colours to the mast in that way,
there
to
you
say, yeah, I
go.
really, really, really want to get out there. It's tricky because my son is 6, so trying to juggle it with school dates and things is a challenge. I know it can be done as soon as that schedule is out for next year. I'm going to be on the case, looking to see what works and what doesn't. I'm desperate to get out there and yeah, just see as much Astros baseball as possible, and also get to enjoy Houston as well. Because from especially from the last 5 years. I mean, I've been an Astros fan for 22 years. I've been on Twitter just generally for since 2013, um, which really helped me sort of take my Astros connection, if you like, to a higher level, because before that it was a case of just following results and trying to see highlights on MLB when I could. But from that point on, I didn't realize how good a tool Twitter was for connecting just generally.
Mhm.
And I was able to, literally from the moment that I think it was November 2013. Obviously, we'd had a terrible season in 2013, capping those 300 lost seasons. But I was able to right then and there sort of fully immerse myself in the actual just sort of daily updates, whether it's following Brian McTaggart and whoever on Twitter and trying to actually get more Astros knowledge daily, and it really helped. So I came on 2013. I started Astros Fans UK in 2017 in late June, early July. And this I know this is a tangent. It does have a point. Um, so yeah, I just from having done those last 5 years as Astros Fans UK, I've made so many great connections from Houston online. I've got my Instagram and Facebook as well, which I'm trying to develop as well. But I'm not quite. I know what works on Twitter. I don't know quite so much what works on Instagram. And Facebook is a horrible platform, but it needs to be done. The interface, just the interface it just messes with your eyes. I don't know. I don't know why anyone likes it, but it has to be done. I'm even on Reddit as well. I'm constantly trying to connect Astros fans in the UK. I'm up to 196, I think it is 196 Astros fans over here. Um, and
Nice.
yeah, basically the point I'm making is that having made so many connections in Houston, I know Houston doesn't necessarily get the same kind of attention for things to do that obviously other American cities do, but I know for a fact that getting out to Houston with meeting the people that I've made connections with and getting to know Houston as a city inside and out would be a wonderful experience, and I really can't wait. I want to sample the food. I want to go to enjoy the various different things that there are. The different types of vibes within Houston and the larger Houston area, because Houston is massive. So I think people who aren't familiar with it don't necessarily realize that it was the fourth largest city in the US, so it's by population, and I don't know by geographically, but it must be arguably even higher in terms of geographic because it's huge. But I just really want to get out there. I've heard so many good things from UK fans of the Astros who have been out to Houston, and it would be amazing to see all the people that like I said, all the people, including yourselves, to see all the people that are out there. So it's great. I don't know if you may or may not have seen one of my counterparts for the Angels. He actually recently had an insane trip to see the Angels, which he was there for Reed Detmer's no hitter. He was there for Otani hitting a grand slam. That I think Trout getting the record for Angels home runs, and also I think Anthony Rendon hit that left-handed home run. It was insane. He was getting interviewed by their broadcast crew, and like he had like people coming up to him every day as if he was like a minor celebrity of sorts. So that's not why I'm doing this, but it's kind of funny because to get that kind of attention is quite a unique thing, and we pour a lot of effort into what we do, so it's great to see people respond to that. And I'm lucky enough to get a lot of that online, which kind of makes it worthwhile what I'm doing. If I'm spending hours and hours at 2, 3, 4 in the morning live tweeting Astros games, and if I get a comment, I do get the odd comment here and there saying, "Oh, thank you very much. I love your live tweets or whatever." It really does make it worthwhile because sometimes if people don't interact with what you're doing online, you probably aren't doing the right thing. So it's good to get that feedback. I don't know. I've lost my original point, but it's just a very rewarding experience.
There you go. Rooting for the Astros. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. The restaurants are awesome. I will say that I love the culture of Houston.
Yeah.
It is a very multicultural city. I think it's the most ethnically diverse city in America, even more so than New York.
Wow.
It is a melting pot of different types of restaurants. I guess that's just an outpouring of the culture within the city. The traffic is horrible and the humidity is awful. But if you can make it past those two things, I swear the city's awesome. Travis and I live in Dallas, Texas. Well, Dallas, Fort Worth area, Texas. And I'll take the weather of the Dallas.
Oh, you're cutting out.
Fort Worth area. If I could create my perfect city, take the weather of Dallas and put it over the city of Houston, I'd want to go back there any day of the week.
And expand the public transit a bit more in Houston as well to get closer to what we have in Dallas. That would make it better as well. But yeah, I think Houston definitely has. I mean, I was born in Houston, but moved up to the Dallas area when I was 3. And so this is pretty much all I've known. But I feel like Houston has the far superior culture. Houston does culture better than Dallas does. Dallas is just, I don't know. Dallas is more with like the different groups of like people and subcultures and everything. You're more kind of tolerated here in like the grand scheme of like what like the common norms and culture is up here. Down in Houston, it's just everything blends together a lot better. So that's my critique I would have between the two areas.
Cool. I mean, London is a very, very, very diverse city. So I'm glad to hear that.
There you go, man. You're welcome anytime. Of course, I know it's not an easy feat going across the pond, especially when you got a kid, man. I got 2 myself, and so I can only imagine the logistics of that. But
yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, man. So,
yeah, you gotta go through customs, all that, worry about passports.
I'm not so worried about that. Yeah, that too. But I was more thinking in terms of family, like, dragging my family across the Atlantic to basically indulge my Astros love.
Hey,
Yeah,
you can do a little trade meet. It's like, hey, do this for me, and then we could do something for you, right?
yeah. Maybe make it multi-city and go Disney World or whatever. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah,
Yes, because it's Houston and Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
yeah,
That's what America is.
yeah.
There you go, man. So, um, have you ever played baseball at
No,
all?
no.
Wow,
We Not at
dude.
all. No, it's a shame. I honestly, in cricket, I'm a bowler, which is
Okay.
partly why when I was getting interested in what Mike Hampton was doing, I just found it intriguing to see someone who was able to do both. But in terms of yeah, me, I've never played baseball. I don't know. I have no idea whether I'd want to be a pitcher and kind of continue the arm related sort of vibe, or whether I'd want to try and be a hitter. I mean, I look at pictures and I just think, wow, his shoulder's going to get wrecked. It's just. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you, I can speak from experience as a bowler in cricket that puts a hell of a lot of unnatural stress on all kinds of different parts of your body. You're running up, you're jumping, you're stopping, you're going through with your arm, going over, and then you're sort of then powering through again. Whereas in baseball, obviously, you're standing on a mound and you're kind of exploding from the mound, which with this, and all the power's coming up through your legs, through your core, and then up through your chest, and then and then exploding out through the shoulder. So yeah, I don't know if I really have no idea, to be honest with you, and because I'm not sort of 10 years old, I really don't know how I'd naturally sort of find. No, because I'd love to sort of organically find have that process of being able to do that, but I really don't know. It's a shame. Yeah, there are places to play baseball here, and it definitely is
Huh.
growing in that respect. Baseball Softball UK do an excellent job of promoting the sport. I know there've been quite a lot of over the years. There's been quite a lot of sort of politics and infighting, which is ridiculous when you consider a sport that's trying to expand. But that's
Hmm.
been more due to some other organisations rather than BSUK, who are, like I said, they're very, very passionate about what they do. And there are a ton of clubs, baseball and softball, around the UK. It's just a case of you had to look at, you had to put a little bit of effort in to find them. But yeah, playing, unfortunately, never done it.
Hey man, you can always you can get a chance. It sounds like there are outlets to do it in
Mm.
the UK. I mean, growing up, baseball is very American, and I mean, I played t-ball all the way up into 1 year of kid pitch. You
I
go from
played T-ball once. Yeah.
Well, there you go. It
Mm.
kind of counts, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I did t-ball to coach pitch, and then I did 1 year of kid pitch, and then I deviated from there. It's just, it is a very difficult sport. We've talked about this in other interviews, but if you watch a basketball game,
Yeah.
pick some random person from the stands. They might be able to land a half court shot. You pick some random person from a hockey game, they might be able to hit the puck just right to go through this little hole thing. You pick some random person from the stands, tell them to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
It's
It
never
ain't
happening.
happening. It
Ever.
ain't
Yeah.
happening. Baseball is so difficult. The best players in baseball are unsuccessful 70% of the time.
Hmm.
That just goes to show you that these people have spent years, hundreds upon thousands of hours
Yep.
devoting to that craft, and they're still unsuccessful 70% of the time, 60% of the time if you want
Mm.
to look at on base percentage, but
Yeah.
still it's overwhelmingly failure.
Hmm.
So it is a very difficult sport, but it is still fun. um have you ever seen Ken Burns's
I
documentary?
haven't. I know of it, and I really should take the time to sit down and watch it. How many parts is it? Is it 9 parts?
Oh, well, so yes, it is 9 parts, just like there's 9 innings of
Yeah.
baseball, but then they have extra innings that go into the steroid era.
Oh wow.
Um, but the 9 innings, the 9 parts, it starts all the way late 1800s, all the way through. You would absolutely love it, man.
Where's it available? Is it on is it on YouTube at all, or is it? I don't.
Yeah, so it's been off and on Netflix. Um, when I first watched it, it was when it was on Netflix, and then of course it gets off, and then sometimes it gets back on, then sometimes
Okay.
it gets off. So, um, I'll do some digging, and then I'll get back in touch with you.
Yeah. Let me know because I really should take the time to watch
Dude,
it.
you will eat it up because it
Mm,
goes through the history of baseball, the dead ball era, the
yeah.
live ball era with Babe Ruth, all the way into the steroid era. Kurt Flood. Learn about that guy, dude. If
Mm,
you don't know anything about him, he's a very important character in baseball history. But
yeah.
yeah, dude, you'll eat it up, and it'll make you appreciate baseball even more. It is a very American sport. It's all the way back to the Civil War, which that's what we had to go through because we're a messed up country. We kill each other, but that's pretty grim. But anyway, yeah, it's been with us. It's a kids game. It's a kids game that's played by adults, and that's what's so cool about it is
Mm,
people can relate to it because it can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be incredibly complicated, which is the major leagues.
yep.
So it's a beautiful thing, man. So growing up, 14, you're
Yeah.
immediately drawn to Mike Hampton.
Yeah.
Um, so and then of course he leaves the Astros, but you decide to stick with the Astros, which I respect you for.
Hmm.
So was there another player that you then gravitated towards as you're
Um, yeah.
growing
Good
up?
question. Good question. I think I love Bijan Bagwell. I think he's an obvious answer, but
Yeah,
I love watching him. I mean, Jeff Bagwell with that iconic batting stance is you just see him there, and you're wondering how his hamstrings aren't exploding as he's trying to hit, as he's trying to swing the bat. But yeah, he's such a great player, and it killed me that by the time finally got to the World Series, that injuries had kind of finished him. So he wasn't able to really show what his career had been about on the very biggest stage. I mean, obviously, that series against the White Sox in 2005 was
Oh yeah.
was a really frustrating series. Just like for
Oh yeah.
whatever reason, we just
Win the
couldn't
game.
get it, couldn't win it. Yeah, we just couldn't, and it was, I think it was the tightest. What was the tight? It was the tightest 4 game series ever. Like in the sense that we lost each game by one run or whatever it was. So
Dang,
yeah, it's
yeah.
just, and that game 3 with Blummer hitting that shot. Yeah, that home run. I still remember it very very vividly.
Bummer.
And
Yeah.
it took me many years to forgive him, but 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 yeah,
Yes.
it's yeah. I mean, I would definitely just to go back to the question. Yeah, Biggio and Bagwell, it had to be. I mean, it really had to be.
Yeah, many years to forgive him. You had him on your podcast.
I did
Shows
indeed.
across
Yeah.
the globe.
Yes, sir.
Man, dude, yeah. We'll get into that later,
Yeah.
but
Please do.
you've taken your love of baseball to another level. So yeah, obviously you're watching Astros, Biggio and Bagwell,
Yeah.
Killer Bees. It's very obvious. I mean, my favorite player was Biggio. He was the leadoff man. Seeing them in person at the Dome, going to Minute Maid. But I mean, who is your favorite Astros player now?
Altuve. Straight up.
Boo.
It has to
Straight
be
up,
Jose. It has
dude.
to be Jose Altuve. I mean, I can't put into words and stress enough how much I love this man. He is such an inspiration, and to see the reaction, the two things. To see the reaction that he gets from other fans, from fans of other teams, is a disgrace because
Yes.
they've completely got the wrong guy. Totally understand people being angry about what happened and blah blah blah. Obviously, it's a different discussion, but this guy was not involved with it at all. The stats back that up.
Yes.
And then you look at the the class that he carries himself with and the composure that he has. He's never reacted to if he was me. Let's go back to last year. Let's go back to Yankee Stadium and when he hits that fantastic 3-run shot to silence all the boo boys in the crowd. And honestly, if that's me, I'm walking around the bases with my middle finger up to the entirety of Yankee Stadium. But instead, he's just doing his trademark little Altuve trot around the bases, head down, doing what he just letting his baseball do the talking. This guy is class, and that is something which a lot of people could learn from. And when you think about his story and where he came from and the whole the much told but worth repeating story about how he was turned away by the scouts and the coaches on
Yeah.
the first day, and then he came
Mhm.
back and he refused to to sort of take no for an answer. This guy, he is incredible, and he remains incredible to this very day. And it pleases me no end to see that after that, it's very similar to the 2019 season when he had an injury early on and he came back firing. He obviously had that injury, hamstring injury, which thankfully wasn't too serious, but he was out for a little while, and he came back and he had a phenomenal May, which yeah, it's just great to see when Altuve is doing great. The health of the Astros in general is great. I think it just makes me happy to see him happy and playing baseball with a smile on his face. I think when we saw that bizarre 2020 COVID shortened season, and he was kind of playing looking glum, after our post scandal, etc. It just kind of hurt to see that. So I
Oh
love
yeah.
Jose Altuve, and I'm praying to every god in existence, that when I get out to Houston, that he's healthy and he's playing. I would love to, if you're listening, Astros, I'd love to meet the guy. But it's but but yeah, he's just an inspiration. I love him. Absolutely love him.
Oh man, yeah, he is my favorite current Astros player. Biggio is my favorite player of all
Mm,
time, but Altuve is my favorite current baseball player. Everything you just said, I mean, I'm not going to repeat it, but I mean,
yeah.
it speaks for itself. He is the most slandered man, not just in Major League Baseball, but you can argue in American sports.
Mm,
It's just
it's crazy.
people don't care about facts, George. They
Yep.
don't care, and it's really easy to boo when it's like following the crowd. Basically,
Yeah.
it's really easy to do that. It's not easy to internalize facts that are inconvenient to your narrative.
Yeah. It's true.
And that's what not enough people do, unfortunately. Objectivity has to win the day, or ignorance is bliss. That's the MO for most fans of
Sadly,
other
yeah.
bases. Sadly, yes, but I think it's kind of dying down. Last year was interesting because it was the first time that fans could
Mm,
really get in the Astros' face. That Yankees series was a reduced capacity, and yet they booed the crap out of the Astros, even though it was like
yeah.
25% max capacity. And
Mm,
then they played at LA, which was 100% capacity because it was in like the summer
yeah.
months, and they gave them crap. Astros ended up going to the World Series. So that's all I'm
These
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, this Astros team, I mean, they are resolute and kind of rock solid in terms of just their willpower. They're a force of nature. I don't think many teams and many individuals in sport, not just baseball, would be able to put up with what they had to go through for as a team. Because you remember, on my podcast, I was talking to Ryan Stanek about it, and it was
Yeah, yeah.
and he was kind of like, yeah, it's weird, like you've got people booing you and calling you a cheater when he wasn't even anywhere near the club in 2017. So it's like, well, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of surreal, but they have shown such an ability to not to kind of absorb that energy and then give it back, and
Mhm.
I love that. It's a very I don't know what the word is, not attractive. It's a very kind of it's a kind of it kind of gives you that buzz, that buzz, that vibe, that kind of enthusiasm to you feel like you're with them. You see them respond to that kind of negative energy with such a positive outlook. I mean, going back to Altuve, he said something last year about how I think someone had asked him about, oh, how does it feel to like prove people wrong? And he was like, no, I'm actually happy that I'm proving people who believed in me right. So and he was just looking at it so positively. He wasn't going to start, you know, attacking people for booing him when he easily could have. He's a much bigger man than I am. I can say that.
True
Way bigger
that.
man.
Oh yeah, even though he is
Yeah,
probably small,
he's a small guy, but
a big
what he lacks in height,
man.
he makes up for in being just a massive personality in terms of being you know a classy guy.
He is a man of outstanding character. I am lucky enough to have
Yes, sir.
I am lucky enough to have gotten his autograph. Was right place, right time. And I was at the game where he hit the walk off Chapman.
Oh yeah.
Oh. I was there. I saw it live. Just of course we were still in bliss at that point, but
Yeah,
despite
yeah, yeah,
it was still amazing. Oh man, so definitely respect you for Altuve, but the Astros they have so many likable people. You can choose
yeah.
you can choose anybody, and they're
Gotcha.
likable people.
Yeah.
Even post scandal. I mean,
No,
Jeremy Pena
definitely.
for
Yeah.
crying out loud. I mean, you can
Wow.
hop on the Pena bandwagon right now. It's
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I know. So you've never been to America before, right?
I have. No, I have. I have been to America.
Oh,
Went there
okay.
on my honeymoon. Went to New York actually. We went to New York.
Nice.
We spent 10 days in New York, and we did a day trip to Philadelphia. So it was the reason I did that was because I'm a huge Rocky fan, and I hadn't realized how close Philadelphia
Yes.
was. Had to do the steps, had to do the Rocky steps, and
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm an enormous Rocky fan, so it's yeah, it was that was surreal, but arguably even more surreal than that was and I had to if you'll indulge me or let me indulge you,
Go for it.
I'll tell you a story about the game I went to out there. So having never been to a Major League Baseball game before, obviously knew that the Astros weren't going to be in town, so I had to sort of settle for a Yankees game. So I went to the Yankees were hosting the Oakland A's on think it was something like Tuesday, June, what was the date? Tuesday, June the 3rd or something like that in 2014. And yes, the weather was great in New York for the trip. It was roasting. It was really hot, very, very good weather.
Hmm.
And that day came and the
Was this
forecast was
well, real quick? Was this old Yankee Stadium?
no New Yankee Stadium, so
Oh, okay, okay,
2014. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Well, I would have liked to have seen the old one, unfortunately, but yeah, it was the new one. But yeah,
Mm.
so we so yeah, it was towards the back end of our trip, and yeah, the weather had been great, but the forecast for that day was for storms in the afternoon. So we got a phrase over here, bricking it. I think you can work out what that means. I was very nervous about the weather, and yeah, we it was getting closer and closer to game time. The storm clouds were coming over, and I was just thinking, please don't rain, please don't rain. We got to Yankee Stadium, we got to the Bronx, we got to Yankee Stadium, and the heavens opened. It started pouring, and I was crestfallen. I was sitting on my seat. My wife could tell you this story, but I was sitting in my seat. I was devastated. I thought, oh, I've been a baseball fan for 15 years at that time, and I'm going to miss the game, which I'm finally going to see. But thankfully, the rain stopped about an hour later, and the grounds crew did an incredible job of getting the field playable. So the tarp came off. I'm like, wow, I'm finally going to see Major League Baseball in the flesh. This is incredible. Obviously, it's not the Astros, unfortunately, but we'll make do with what I can get. And so the game's going on. Yankees were winning 2-1, I think it was fairly late on, and then the I think was it the other way around. Either way, it was 2-1, and then one of the teams tied it. Naturally, the game had started an hour and a half after when it was meant to start, so it was getting a bit late. Went into extra innings. So I said to my wife, I said, right, we're in the Bronx. I naturally want to get back safe to the hotel. So I'm like, we'll watch the first extra inning. It's not the Astros, so I don't really, obviously, that's not life or death on the result. So if it goes to the 11th inning, we'll leave after the 10th. So anyway, it's the top of the 10th. The Oakland A's are hitting, sorry, and they take the lead, and the place clears out. Yankees fans are heading for the hills. You can just see them running and leaving to the gangways and exits everywhere. So the place is hot. The place is really, really sparsely populated at this point. I'm enjoying it because I'm quite enjoying seeing the Yankees lose. So it goes 5-2. You go the Oakland A's tack on another couple of runs. It's 5-2. Game is pretty much looking dead. And then John Jaso was up hitting for the A's, and so he hits this foul ball. If we can, where we were sitting was in the kind of middle deck, the middle tier. If you're looking down the first baseline, we're kind of not quite in line with first base, but not far off it, and we're quite high up. No balls have come near us during the whole game. So John Jaso hits this foul ball. It's kind of like you can see it. It's kind of spinning, 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 spinning. It goes way up high, and it hits the edge of the upper deck, the front of the upper deck, bounces down, rattles around, ends up under my wife's seat. Grabbed the ball before this Yankees fan next to me It was unreal. And I'm going to just take you on a little tour of my house. I'll show you where that ball is right now. Hang on.
Yeah.
It is sitting on the mantelpiece right there.
Yeah. Dude.
Love it.
And it's even got the dent where it hit that part of the upper deck. 1 second. I'll take it out of the case for a second.
Here we
Hang on.
go, everybody.
1 second. It's
Oh my God.
there it is. Can you see it?
Dude.
Nice.
So it was an unbelievable trip with an unbelievable memory. And oh my goodness, it was just like one of those things. I still to this day can't really believe that actually happened, because it was so random. For my first ever major league game, I didn't catch the foul ball, but to still get a foul ball, it was just weird, because it literally ended up under my wife's seat. If it had ended up under my seat, I think the Yankees fan who was scrambling for the ball would have got there first. It's just because it ended up under her seat that I could see it and I was able to get it. And yeah, so the Yankees fan, she was like, "Torres got the ball." It was so funny. Honestly, it was so funny. But a great just one of those sort of, it was meant to be kind of random things that happened. The game could have got rained off, didn't, and then everything sort of fell into place just for this to happen. It was something else.
Dude, I'm happy you've gotten one. I'm 30 years old. I've been to a lot more baseball games than you have, George. I have gotten 0 balls.
Oh, wow.
0. I have never gotten one. One summer I went with my friend to 2 Astros games, and he got foul balls at both of those games.
Oh, wow.
Right next to me. I have yet to get one, and it just goes to show you that you have to be in the right place at the right time. It's
It's just destiny, man. It's just destiny.
It's destiny, man. But I am happy that you did it, because baseball games are fewer and farther between for you, and so you got to see a Major League Baseball game. And we as Americans, a lot of us, we grow up and we kind of go to baseball games, and a lot of us like to see baseball games live. Of course, the majority of what you're seeing is not live. Just what were your thoughts about seeing an actual MLB game live?
Yeah, incredible experience. I mean, I'm someone who likes to tick off the boxes of seeing all sorts of different sports. And it was on there for a long time. Having been to many other events of different sports and different things, and to be able to compare the kind of vibe in the stadium was really interesting and really cool. And yeah, it's a totally different experience from match day experience, game day experience, whatever you want to call it, from football over here. Although in the Premier League that is somewhat being Americanized, so that you do get some similarities these days compared to say 15, 20 years ago, where it was completely different. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just very different. It's just very, very. I mean, the whole ethos and vibe of the atmosphere, ambience, etc. of a baseball game in the ballpark is really cool, and it's very of a major league ballpark, I should say, because I know that if you go to say Korea or Japan, they've got their own sort of take on it, which is cool, because I like that. I think it's really cool that they have their own sort of version of that. But the American ball game experience in the park it was something very, very cool. And I mean, we were very lucky here. We had the London series with the Yankees and the Red Sox here 3 years ago. They're coming back next year, 2023, 2024. In 2025, they're in Paris, and then 2026, they're here again. So we've got 3 out of the next 4 years of. I mean, obviously, from a personal point of view, I'd love it to be the Astros, but I very, very much doubt it's possible. So the time zone is more likely to be an East Coast team or something that's sort of central/east. It will very, very likely be the Cubs and the Cardinals next year, after they were supposed to come in 2020, but the pandemic put paid to that. So I'm pretty sure that they'll be the first ones getting first dibs on that. But for 2024 and 2026, I mean, I would kill to have the Astros over here, because from a personal point of view, not just for the chance for me to see the Astros here, but also as a recruiting drive for getting Astros fans over here, it would be insane. I would go fully. I would go fully all in. I would be everywhere. Like, not as in. I don't mean that from a sort of attention point of view. I mean as in from like trying to get people on board. I would be doing my level best to do as many promotional pieces as possible. And yeah, so I think it's really cool. So the fans of the teams that do come here, my UK counterparts, because every team has an equivalent of myself. And yeah, it's great. I'm happy for them. I think it's going to be. It's an insane experience. As part of MLB UK community, the group I was talking about earlier, we were very, very fortunate to before that Yankees Red Sox series in London, we had the chance to meet and sit down with Marley Rivera from ESPN and Eric Boland and Meredith Marakovitz, the Yankees on-field broadcaster who does the same job like Julia Morales does for the Astros. And yeah, it was just really, really cool to get the chance to meet these people and talk baseball with them. And it's a very surreal experience. We've been able to, as a group, we've been able to talk been very lucky to get a high caliber of guests on my podcast. We've been very, very lucky and fortunate as MLB UK community to get high profile guests from a general baseball perspective. It's something which I am very keen that we can do next year. I don't know necessarily who all the Cubs and Cardinals guys are, but we will be very, very much going all out to speak to them and try and have that same experience, because it was wonderful in 2019 just as a celebration of baseball. You had fans of all 30 teams at that stadium in London, and it was just a celebration of the game. And the games themselves were insane. Like the park was as a major league park, it was very small in certain areas, but there weren't tons of home runs. It was just weird. It was also people couldn't pitch. I don't know if it was the atmospheric conditions were detrimental to the normal kind of movement that the pitchers were expecting on their stuff, their fastballs, their breaking balls, their off-speed pitches, whatever. It just wasn't happening for them. So I think the first game was something like 17-14, or the second one was like 18-12 or something. It was crazy. It was crazy baseball. It was 6-6 after the first inning of the first game. And I was just sitting there thinking, that was a marketing executive's dream. Like if you introducing a brand new fan to baseball who's never seen a game before, and you're seeing it 6-6 after the first inning. I was trying to say to people around me, I was like, this doesn't normally happen, like, because they were sort of thinking, wow, this is incredible. Like they were thinking this must be what it's like all the time. I was like, no, it's definitely not like this. But,
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is cool to see Major League Baseball continue their international
series, yeah.
Series. They're going to do it in Japan, in Korea, in Mexico, UK. Yeah, in France. It's just cool. Just you got to grow the game. I mean, it's just untapped potential right there. So it's got to get those ratings up. So,
yeah, I think it's different from, because there was talk a few years back of in the Premier League over here in football of a so-called 39th game to be held in another country, and it got the same kind of response that the Super League idea got. It was roundly destroyed, obliterated by fans, etc. I think it's different. It's different for baseball. I can't speak for NFL and I can't speak for NBA, which obviously have had their games over here as well. But for baseball, because there's such an extraordinary number of regular season games, 162 games, is almost unfathomable for us here. For sports we have here, you just don't have anything remotely close to that. But when you've got 81 home games, I don't think a team is necessarily being kind of crippled by the fact that they're losing 2 home games. I get it that in terms of, maybe if you're playing a specific team, it's a shame for the local fans to not be able to see that. But I think baseball is best equipped to deal with that expansion and international aspect, rather than, especially much more rather than football, because again, you don't get enough games in football. And it does just look like a cash grab. Obviously, MLB are about their money, and the fact is they're not doing international series purely for just some kind of misty-eyed love of the game. They obviously want their money. They're not. It's not purely altruistic. But I think it does work, and I think it's great. Like I said, the response over here in 2019 was immense, We're so excited about it coming back, and it's not meant as an insult to fans in America that want the game. There, I just think with so many games that you're not sacrificing the integrity of the sport by moving a couple of them. I think if there were only like 50 games in a season, then I would say yeah, it's not such a cool thing. But it's because you can accommodate that. It's great to see this, to see superstars over here. We when we saw the Yankees and the Red Sox, I'm seeing players like Judge over here, and whilst
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the guy, it's great to be able to see that kind of talent, and to be able to say, yeah, he came over here and we saw him playing baseball. It's a really cool thing, and yeah, I'm a big advocate of these international series. I think it's a great idea.
There you go. I mean, it's just untapped potential for baseball. It's
Yeah.
just, and I guess this is a good segue, but, you know, in America, you have your major sports, your professional top tier sports, and baseball is, I'm sure you can see it from a mile away, but football is really king here in America. Um, we ask this question of every guest that we have on,
Hmm.
and I think your perspective is definitely going to be even more so unique from across the pond.
Yeah.
But Major League Baseball at one point was the most popular sport in America. It
Hmm.
was America's pastime. It was the sport that everybody paid attention to. They were listening to it on the radio. They were watching it on TV. World Series viewership peaked in the 70s, and it's been on a steady decline ever since. We live in an age in which there are endless amounts of options for entertainment, and Major League Baseball is just competing with everything. It's not just the sports, but
Yeah.
it's everything.
It's a good
Um,
point.
but it's other sports seem to be more progressive in a sense of reaching out to younger fans. You're
Definitely.
talking about basketball and football, especially.
Hmm.
Baseball is very slow to change. It's not going to die anytime soon, but at the same time, it is kind of getting left behind in a sense.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
George,
I was
you were
just going to
saying,
interject real quick here and say, like, a great in this example here, you're a perfect guest to talk about this, George. A great case study of a sport that I feel like can be slow to change, but
Yeah.
in y'all side of the world, but did it, and it's having a huge impact here in America is Formula One. Formula One with Drive to Survive. There, like Formula. I grew up watching Formula One races back in the 2000s, and like my summers with them happy on y'all side of the world. I
Yeah.
was up at like 7 a.m. to see an afternoon race, like first
Yeah.
the get started there. And I was having to like keep myself awake to it. But like I remember like for years the Formula One culture was very insular,
Yeah.
closed off, did not want personalities really involved there at all. And that's not anything that you can really have here in the US and grow a
Mm.
game. It's like Formula One first came to the U.S. back in the early 2000s, but it really hasn't been until the past few years that it's absolutely been taken off. And you've got people who've only watched it for a couple of years, but act like they've been lifelong fans of it, and it really kind of annoys me. But that's another story for another time there. But Formula One said, hey, with the new management that came in with Liberty Media, said, hey, we're going to do these things, and we're going to take the sport to another level there. And the culture as a whole of the sport bought in, and it's paid dividends in terms
Yeah.
of like the effects felt here in the US and then around the
Hmm.
world as well. So I think that's if I think if Formula One can do it, I think there's Major League Baseball can do it as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm taken aback by how much Formula One has had an impact, or how much of an impact Formula One has had in America in the last year, even. I mean,
Yeah.
because I'm part of that group, Apollo Media,
Yep.
obviously Houston based, and in that group chat, wow, I'm still doing double takes when I see people talking about Americans talking about Formula One, because obviously for years you think about racing and Americans, you're thinking of NASCAR, you're thinking of IndyCar, whatever, you're just thinking of something totally different from the concept of Formula One. So it's great, it's great to see it have that traction. And obviously, Drive to Survive has had an immense impact in that regard. I haven't watched it myself, um, and I sort of not fell out of love, but fell out of contact with Formula One when I was growing up. I used to watch it a lot when I was like a little kid. I used to watch. Well, obviously, we had Nigel Mansell as a British racer who
Damon
finally.
Hill.
Damon. Yeah, I was going to say, moving on to Damon Hill. Both were able to win world titles. And yeah, it was something which I used to watch every Sunday whenever it was on. So and then it moved to cable Sky over here, and I completely lost touch with it, which was a shame.
Mhm.
And it's kind of it's totally different sport now from even back then. The changes the changes that they introduce every year. The cars completely changed, the rules completely changed, and I'm really out of touch with how things work. I mean, from afar. I love what Lewis Hamilton's been able to do as a British racer over the last decade. I think there was a time when, like I said, I don't watch it. I don't watch it. I just sort of keep in touch with the results of how they're going. There was a period when it looked like Lewis Hamilton had underachieved. As he did very, very well his first season. He should have won a world title. Was it 2007 or eight?
Yeah,
Um,
2007 was his first season.
yeah, and he
Back with
should have won a world
Mercedes.
title then. He had that I think it was in China, the penultimate race. He messed it up on, and he kind of lost his chance to win. I think Kimi Raikkonen won it that year, I think. But yeah, so the next year he came back, and then I think he won it that next year. I think it was the next year was he had that incredible finish with Massa, thinking that he was going to win, and Timo Glock got passed by Hamilton, and iconically, Massa's family celebrations got cut short cruelly, but it was Hamilton's moment of glory. And then he went, what was it, 4, 5, 6 years without winning another title. And it looked like, oh, what happened to Lewis Hamilton in terms of winning titles? But then from there on, he just went to the next level and was winning title after title after title. And then he had that, the incident at the end of last year where he got robbed, and it's just like, well, it's it's a great storyline, but I still felt for him, and it was incredible to see Americans responding the way they did, or seeing tons of Americans saying, "Wow, Lewis Hamilton was robbed," and it's just for me still is a kind of wow, that's a real double take moment. And yeah, you're absolutely right to say that, Travis, that if Formula One can do it and can crack a very, very tough market, it's very, very tough for a sport to travel transatlantically if it hasn't got that base already, and it's doing that. So, whilst it's different with baseball, I think the way I look at it, as with my MLB UK community cap on, is we're not looking for a sport to displace the historically successful, popular sports in Britain. We're looking for a sport to coexist with them. And I always say that about cricket and baseball, both brilliant sports with so many nuances you wouldn't even believe. And they can coexist. It's not one or the other. You don't have to be, oh, I'm a cricket fan, or oh, I'm a baseball fan. You can love both. They're
Yeah.
totally different games, and I love that. And, I would love to see cricket have a presence in America as well. So like I see some. I know that you get some kind of small enclaves of expats who play out there. I know that someone I was talking to once even mentioned that in Houston there's some like artificial turf cricket pitches and things out there, which is cool to see. Obviously, it's not big at all, but yeah, I love that. I think that especially in the social media era which we live, it's very easy to keep tabs on one sport and then also be interested in another. You can do it. You can do it quickly and without a massive amount of effort. So I think more power to Major League Baseball for releasing the shackles on being too traditional and trying to embrace that. Because you're absolutely right, Barrett, what you said about their attitudes are antiquated and they have completely dropped the ball, literally and metaphorically, when it comes to trying to get the younger audience on board, to trying to follow the lead of NFL and of NBA. And I think that it's not dead. I'm not talking about the sport here. I'm talking about the chance to do that. It's not dead. They can still do it. They're playing catch up. But I think that the main thing for me is that they need a new commissioner, because Rob Manfred is an absolute car crash of a commissioner. I mean, you think, oh, Bud Selig was bad, and then you see what Rob Manfred's doing. You're like, can Bud Selig come back? It's that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a real shame. If I don't know what the deal is with MLB commissioners, whether it's a tenure or whether he just in there till he dies. I don't know. It's like I mean, he can't be voted out. I don't know who's Rob Manfred's boss. I don't understand.
I
Like,
don't know.
Rob
'cause, yeah,
Manfred,
'cause
it's like Rob Manfred is the
his
commissioner,
boss,
like the
yeah.
highest position you can have
Mm.
within the executive leadership of Major League Baseball. But really, he's just a hired gun that's in between the
He's a
ownership group
Yeah,
and basically like
he's a
almost a
lawyer. He's a
mediator
lawyer.
between them and their lawyers.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
all it is.
yeah, because he's a lawyer himself. So he's yeah, it's he doesn't love baseball. I every time I listen to Rob Manfred talk and I read what he says, this guy does not love the sport. He doesn't understand the sport, and he does not have its best interests in mind. So having said that, the international series is a good thing, but there's so much more work to do across the board. And the way he handled the lockout was a joke. I mean, honestly, this
Seriously,
was.
yeah.
I mean, it was nauseating, and I feel sick looking at him. But it is what it is, and like I said, he can't be ousted. So I don't know how long he could stay in that position for the next 20 years, God forbid. But
Yeah,
it's
I will point out that he is under contract,
yeah.
and his contract was extended to 2024.
Okay.
I'm googling it as we
No,
speak.
no, no. Yeah, it's interesting to know.
So,
Yeah.
as of now, that he will be commissioner, barring some catastrophe, until at least 2024, and his job is to represent the owners and help
Yep.
them make as much money as possible, while also walking a fine line by also respecting the game, the
Yeah.
integrity of the sport. But the thing about it is, and you look at the teams at the bottom, and they're case in points. Baseball, despite what Manfred would say, is a profitable investment because you can
Absolutely. Yeah.
suck, but you can still make a crap ton of money because of television deals. And you have the season ticket holders, and it's just you can be the Reds and the A's and any team at the bottom, the Pirates, and you can still profit
No
because
relegation. There's no relegation, so they're safe. They can do what they want. Yeah.
exactly, man. It just goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
It's
Relegation would solve everything.
It would, because it would, if just briefly saying, going back to that fantasy world again, if you imagine if you introduced it, there would be immense uproar. Obviously, it would cause a sort of civil war within the sport, but it would probably take a minimum of 5 to 10 years. But people, if it was enforced, eventually you would get to a point where, yeah, tanking would never exist anymore. It would just be
Oh
gone.
no.
So yeah, so yeah, what you said is absolutely right. You've got these teams who are just they're stealing a living pretty much because they're robbing the fans, and I know it's difficult for us to say because the Astros obviously did it from 2011 to 2013.
Yes,
So
yes.
so we've been through that, and it was a gamble which, thankfully for us as Astros fans, came off in style. But other
Yes.
teams, it wasn't a good example to set because other teams are trying it. I know the Cubs obviously did it as well and also succeeded, but in terms of, like, you look at, I mean, what are the Reds doing? I mean, the Reds are. What are what are the Tigers doing? What are the Marlins? The Marlins are all over the place. I mean, the Marlins have got no discernible strategy whatsoever. They've got great pitching, but no hitting and no idea what they're doing. Like, it's very,
Yeah.
very strange. So I mean, you have these teams with then confused ideologies of what are they actually existing for? I mean, they're just going through the motions of playing baseball games. I feel sorry for the players because these guys are trying, they're just not good enough. So no one's going out. They're not throwing games. They're not fixing games. They're not deliberately losing. It'd be completely disingenuous and scandalous to suggest as such. But you look at these teams and they're just not good enough. These aren't even quote sort of quadruple A teams. These are practically triple A teams. These are the actual minor league teams on a major league field, pretty much. And
Yeah.
it's not good for competition. It's not good for audiences. It's just bad for the sport. Teams will, teams who think, oh, this is the master plan to get it right. There'll be teams that will get it wrong, and they crush themselves. And I think that's the worry. And I know that they've tried to. I think that I'm not sure of the particular ins and outs with the CBA renewal. That I know that some of the kind of the way that draft positions was changed in some way. I can't remember what they actually introduced, whether there was some sort of lottery aspect. I can't remember. But the fact is, baseball still needs to address this. They need to keep on it and stop teams from doing this because, yeah, I mean, you've got teams out there that are just dead. I mean, we've seen it over the last 3 days. The Oakland A's, you know, they were good over those last 3-4
Yeah.
years. Like they were a legit rival in the division. You know, I always felt we were better than them, but the fact is they were a legit rival. They were pushing us,
They were
and
contenders.
then
Yeah.
and then now they're garbage. Like they're just
Oh yeah.
rubbish. Like they are going to finish bottom of the AL West, and it's not going to be close. I mean, I know the Mariners have kind of fallen off a lot this last month, surprisingly so. But yeah, they won't be anywhere near as bad as the A's. The A's and I feel sorry for the fans because you know you think about the ballpark there, which yeah, it's not a from afar. It does look a kind of grim park,
Yeah.
but I think that you know the fact is they've deserted them because they hate the ownership so much. They've deserted the team, so you only got like 2,000-3,000 in attendance, maybe 4,000. Which is crazy for a major league game, and they're probably going to, you know, they'll probably leave. They'll probably leave Oakland and go somewhere else, which is the biggest nightmare possible for a sports fan. If your team leaves, and that's something
Yeah.
which, sorry to go on a bit of a rant and tangent, but that's something which is again, it's more common in American sports history than, for example, British sports history. Like what happened, you know, going back to the Dodgers and the Giants in the 50s. I mean that I still can't get my head around that. Moving what 3,000 miles, like
Yeah.
you just completely destroyed your fans. Like imagine imagine. I know you guys aren't living in Houston, but imagine the Astros decided, right, we're done. We're moving to I don't know. We're moving to okay. It's a bit extreme to say North Dakota, we're moving to
Portland.
yeah. Okay, good example. Yeah, moving to Portland, and you're like, what the
What the
hell?
heck?
Like you've just betrayed us and you've killed us. So it's only happened in football. It's really only happened maybe a couple of times. There was a very famous example of a team, Wimbledon, who had worked their way up the leagues. They got to the top. They got to the Premier League. Spent a fair few years in that, and then there was an ownership change, and they moved the team to a smaller city, quite away from London, called Milton Keynes. The fans were, as you'd expect, incandescent. They were vehemently, viciously, vociferously furious. They even so to the extent that they started their own team. They started a new team called AFC Wim.
Wow.
They started a new team called AFC Wimbledon, and AFC
Yes.
Wimbledon worked their way all the way through the pyramid. Not to they haven't reached the Premier League yet, but they are in the professional game, and they have played against the Milton Keynes team that used to be theirs. And yeah, it was very, very, as you'd expect, it was very, very tasty. It was aggressive, and you don't understand that because their team got ripped from them, and you know there's a lot of enmity and animosity between them. It's you know that doesn't happen here though. That's very much an exception to the rule. Whereas in America, going back to the A's, you quite conceivably see the A's being leaving from Oakland within the next few years, and like I said, just going back to that, I feel for their fans. I think we have, as I said, we've got fan groups for all the 30 teams here, and
Hmm.
the Oakland A's fan group. Yeah, I feel for them massively because what are they supposed to do? I mean, that it puts a fan in a terrible position. You're kind of like, well, what do I do? Am I supposed to try and follow this team to a new location which has no connection to the team, or do I just stop being a fan of any team and just be like, right, my love for a team is dead, and it's a horrible thing. Like I sincerely hope and pray that that never happens to the Astros. Thankfully, at the moment, it doesn't look any sort of remote possibility in the next decade. But you never know. Baseball is a very cyclical game, and teams rise and teams fall, and that's why going back to my original point earlier about the great work that our international scouting is doing, you know, unearthing these gems from inside and outside the farm system is so important because it keeps the team winning. It staves off any sort of thoughts of team on the downslide and fans not attending games and ownership thinking, would it be profitable to move elsewhere? No, keep the Astros setup is incredible, and long may it continue. Because it's just the worst thing to even think about a team moving.
There you go. Exactly. AFC Wimbledon, isn't that the team that's owned by the author John Green?
It may well be. I have no idea who owns them, to be honest, but it could well be them. But what they've done is, spectacular, because it was literally the fans who originally started. As far as I'm aware, it was literally the fans who originally started it from the very, 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 very bottom of the English football pyramid, and fought their way through all these, amateur leagues, this leagues, getting to up and up and up and up, and finally got to the professional level, and then they got back into the football league, which is the main, the top four leagues here. And it's incredible. It's incredible. What they did was very, very stirring, inspiring.
I have to ask, have you, whether in person or just looking at video on your phone, have you seen any baseball fan behavior that compares to a football hooligan?
Hooligan? When you say hooligan, do you mean as in like thugs, like kind of fighting, or
that type of behavior, just like rowdy?
Just look at Dodger Stadium. Any game of the season, there's the fights that they have there. I mean, I don't understand what's wrong with them. It's like
if you're in beautiful, sunny Southern California, like there's no reason for you to be pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, why are they so angry?
In Boston.
It's like you look at the other teams. I mean, you look at the Giants and you look at the Padres. Like they're not doing that every game. I mean, of course, it's not everyone. It's a minority in the sense that it's not every single Dodger. You haven't got 50,000 people fighting each other every game, but there are enough videos and enough incidents to suggest that they got a problem over there, and I don't know what it is. It's a shame because I just think there's not really a place in baseball for that, and it's very strange. But that definitely is I would call it hooliganism for sure.
There you go, hooliganism. There you go. I think without even me having to ask the question, we've kind of have collectively kind of answered the question on what MLB can do to reverse its popularity trend. And I think we keep getting to something, and it's all about monopolies being the problem, complacency, monopolies. Baseball for the longest time had this thing called the reserve clause, where the owners got together and they decided that they were going to artificially keep major league players' salaries low. So that way they can run away with all the cash. And then Curt Flood sacrificed his career so that way free agency could come into existence. So that happened. But MLB still has an antitrust exemption to this day. It's the only professional sport in America that has an antitrust exemption, which is dumb. Remove that exemption, bring on relegation, although that's not going to happen. But antitrust exemption can still be lifted, and that would be a step in the right direction, George. I think you would agree. So, I mean, it's just you have to have competition. Competition breeds innovation. You look at cricket. Cricket was a sport that lasted days. They then turned it into a one-day version. And then it is now turned into basically a 3-hour version.
Yeah, T20. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'm a purist when it comes to cricket.
Exactly.
I love Test match cricket. It's 5 days is so unique in terms of a sporting content. Because I don't want to sort of play on the whole stereotypical American fan being confused by cricket, but I love saying to an American fan, you can have 5 days of a sport and it can still be a draw. And they're like, what's a draw? We know what's a draw. It's incredible.
Exactly.
I love that. Test cricket is Test cricket for me is the purest form of the game. It's never the same as well. Whereas like I think the shorter the format is, the less potential avenues, potential pathways the story of a game can go. Test cricket over 5 days, where each team bats twice, there are almost infinite possibilities of the way it can go, and because it's so long, there's so many different things that come into factor, whether it's the weather, whether it's the way the pitch is playing, because obviously in cricket the ball bounces, whereas in baseball obviously it's just in the air. So in cricket the pitch is very, very important. It's in the ground, the actual surface that you're playing on is very, very important. And it changes over the course of 5 days. If it depends where you are in the world. If you're playing in England, pitches play a certain way. If you're playing in Pakistan or India or Australia or South Africa, the pitches all play differently depending on where you are and the local conditions. So again, a game is played very, very differently on the fifth day than it is from on the first day, and that is just it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's great, it's great that cricket has been able to embrace the changes and
Yes.
innovation that was offered by T20. It's not really for me. I don't find it that interesting myself. I find it quite. I don't know. I don't want to insult people who do enjoy T20, and there are tons of people who do, but I just find it isn't that it just isn't interesting. It's not challenging. It teaches certain good skills. Fielding. It's very, very, very good for fielding. It's very, very good for teaching about certain ways to score runs if you're batting. But I feel like it's detrimental to Test cricket skills because the longer format of the game, you need to be able to have incredible patience and incredible concentration. And it's like, I would equate it to trying to read a long book after spending hours on Twitter, because you've got messages coming, like short messages. Your attention span gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and then suddenly you're trying to concentrate on something that's longer, a longer format, and it's difficult.
No, yeah.
And I speak from experience because I spent so much time on Twitter, and my concentration is terrible. And if it wasn't for the Astros, I probably wouldn't be on Twitter because I don't think it's not good to be sort of bombarded by information in such
yeah.
sort of quick fire every second. It's really not cool, and I'm kind of locked in because I love what I do with the Astros stuff. So it's not something that I'm going to be dropping anytime soon. But yeah, in terms of the kind of analogy of doing it in a cricket sense, yeah, once you've been playing T20 cricket or watching T20 cricket, it's hard to transfer back to watching the 5 day format of the game, the long format of the game. And I'm very much in the long format of the game camp. But I see, I'm not ignorant on it. I totally understand why they've done it. It's great financially, and it brings completely different crowds in, and it becomes much more of an entertainment product than Test cricket, which is purely about the game itself.
There you go. Adapt or die. That is, that's
Yeah,
that's
you have to. Yeah,
you have to adapt or die. George, have you heard of a team here in America? This isn't Major League Baseball,
yeah.
but have you heard
No,
of the Savannah Bananas?
I have. Yes, yeah.
Are you aware that Savannah Bananas, they do not in fact play baseball, but they play banana ball, and that the rules are completely different?
I heard that you can get outs if you're in the crowd if you catch a ball. Is that correct?
That is correct, but that's
That's
not even scratching the surface
crazy.
as to how insane it is. They're 2-hour games. The batter is not allowed to leave the batter's box. You cannot walk a guy. You literally can't walk a batter. So
Okay.
what that means is if you throw 4 balls,
Yeah.
the runner takes off running. And the defense, what they have to do is they have to toss the ball to all 9 position players. And as soon as the 9th person catches it, the ball's live. So wherever the runner is, they try to tag
Wow.
him. So, and again, and yeah, I'm not even scratching the surface there. So that happens. The batter can't leave the
Wow.
batter box. It's 2 hours. Every inning is a game, basically, and the first team to 5 points wins. So the home team has an incredible advantage. So let's say the away team, they bat first, they scored
Hmm.
a run.
Yeah.
If the home team scores 2 runs, they win that. They win
Hmm.
that first inning and they get a point.
Yeah.
First team to 5 points wins. Let's say you get to the end of the 2 hour, because it's a 2 hour timed game. Let's say
Hmm.
you get to the very end and it's tied. They go into sudden death, and this is when it gets insane. Both teams get a crack at it, and there is the pitcher, the catcher, and 1 fielder in the defense. The batter comes up, and they hit the ball, and the 3 fielders have to try to get him out. And I explain all that to say that is an extreme example
Yeah.
about what baseball could potentially do, even to a small extent, about making it about the fan, because you want to know something about Savannah Bananas? They
Mhm.
sell out every single game. They are on a nationwide tour, bringing their version of baseball. And I'm not going to lie, if they come anywhere close to where we're living, I'm going. I'll take Savannah Bananas over a minor league baseball game because it's
What league did
fun.
what league do they play in?
Well, so it's not
They're
even a
kind of
league.
they're like the Harlem
Oh, so
Globetrotters
like exhibition. It's
of
exhibition games.
baseball. So just
Yeah,
exhibition
Oh,
for
okay.
show.
but it's fun. That's the
Hmm.
whole point. They thought outside the box. They said, we want to make something that's fun. It's a circus that is, but you're getting people who played at universities, and you have people who kind of, they tried it out in the minors for a bit, and they couldn't make it to the majors. So they actually play. It's not fixed games. I mean,
Mhm.
they actually play baseball. It's just they have follow them on Twitter, man. I swear it'll be the best thing you do, because
Ha.
you have flaming bats, you have
Yeah, I did see
just
that actually. Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, it's insane. It's just we all know what baseball can do. They need to put a young person, you know, on. I think the MLB Twitter accounts are being taken over by younger people,
Definitely,
and
yeah.
based on what they're tweeting, and I think that's a good sign.
Hmm.
But it's just there's so much potential,
Pitching to
and
loosen up a bit. Yeah, I mean that's just they're
yeah,
very uptight, and it's they're so terrified of something being attached to their name that they'll be seen to be endorsing, that they go completely the other way and just shut down and don't engage. I mean, like I said, it's good that more recently, especially, I mean, look at the Astros account this year, way better. Like,
oh
it's
yeah,
the content has been excellent, and the tweets have been sharp and kind of contemporary, and it's good. It's good to see that, and I think long may that kind of thing continue. But the sport as a whole, oh yeah, you're right. It needs to embrace different kind of attitudes and changes. I wouldn't want to see it change wholesale, like in terms of sort of Savannah Bananas type stuff, which is just that's kind of a bit too far. I mean, for me, I hate with a passion the kind of ghost runner, the Manfred runner, as I call
yeah,
it.
the
On
Manfred.
Yeah, I call him the Manfred. If if he's out there, it's like, oh, so and so is the Manfred for this 10th inning, and I loathe that. I think it's terrible. I think it's fake baseball, and
Yes,
I just
yes,
don't
yes.
like it whatsoever. In the same vein, I understood the reason for the 7 inning doubleheaders, but again, if you change the fundamental basics of what the game is to that degree, that's that you're not just trying to appeal to new fans, you're actually alienating existing fans. I think there's a fine line. I think
Yeah,
a sport has to recognize, whilst yeah, you're going to get some people who are so stubborn that they won't accept any changes. Don't worry about them. But the fact is, most even-minded people will be able to accept adaptations, like you said, adapting and evolving, not wholesale kind of cutting the sport to pieces just to please people who aren't even interested in it and then alienating your own audience. That's for me what when you see things like that pitch clock that they've been trying in the minor leagues, and some of the crazy timeout strikeouts, whatever you want to call them, which and that's just not healthy. That if they I get why you need to have a pitch clock in the majors. Sometimes you get certain at bats that are a bit of a joke when it takes like a minute and a half for one pitch, and you start thinking, come on, guys, this isn't the World Series. It's a regular season game in April, and you're just wasting everyone's time. But generally speaking, if you're, I feel like sometimes when they talk about pace of play, it's like they're trying to cater to something that doesn't exist. This kind of imaginary would-be baseball fan that is only not watching the games because they're 10 minutes too long. That's nonsense. I mean, the fact is, like you go, oh yeah, the average time of a game is now no longer 3 hours 15 minutes. It's 3 hours. Well, that I can tell you, people who weren't interested in baseball before are not going to be interested in it now just because it's 10 minutes shorter. You've got to think about ways to get people involved with the actual fundamentals of the game and get involved with the teams, have the teams be more interactive and more open towards embracing diversity and getting more people on board. make it more interesting for younger people, for families, and kind of get back to that. I think that's the best way to do it. And I hope that we're on a road where that's the sort of general direction, but with Rob Manfred in charge, who can really trust where we're going.
Exactly. Let's just hope that his contract expires in 2024.
He'll just
And
renew
then,
himself. He'll renew his own contract. He'll be like, oh yeah, it's contract time. Yeah, I'm going to negotiate with myself. I think I'll give myself a raise, and yeah, that's a nice 5-year contract.
it wouldn't surprise me. But I don't know. You can
Yeah,
just
we'll
hope
see.
that it can improve despite Manfred, not
No,
because, but despite. So
agreed.
yeah, man. As we're wrapping up here, it's
Yeah.
just you've really immersed yourself in baseball culture. You've become a part of the Paulo HOU
Hmm.
community, which those guys are awesome. Check them out. You've started your own podcast, and you've interviewed some pretty cool cats. I'm talking about all of basically the Astros correspondents, and you've interviewed people like Reed Ryan and Evan Gaddis, Brian Stanek. You have 14 episodes total. You launched the podcast in
Just over,
2020.
2 years ago. Yeah.
It's through Apollo Media. What's been your favorite interview that you've done so far?
Evan Gattis. It has to be Evan Gattis. It was
Oh, dude.
crazy. Let me tell you, it
Seriously,
was
yeah.
the edit was good. There were a few. I had to cut out some stuff, but yeah, it was 2 hours long, and honestly, I could have. If you think I'm talking now, and this we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. Honestly, I was going. It was 2 hours with Evan Gattis, and the two of us. We could have still been talking now, and it's like a year later. We never would have run out of subjects. It was such a great. He's such a cool guy to talk to. So easygoing, complete opposite of what you sort of think about certain sports stars might be a little bit hesitant or reticent to try and sort of engage people. No, absolute opposite. Sometimes he was so honest, it was startlingly honest. It was like shockingly honest. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, this is incredible. Like this is, I mean,
Yeah.
I had to be professional about it because I didn't want to overstep the mark. I could have asked him anything, and I think he would have been happy to talk about it, like almost literally anything. And I that was I didn't want to abuse that position. He's a really nice guy, and we had a conversation which really did sort of get that it kind of connected with people. It had, relatively speaking, it did big numbers. I think it was like nearly 5,000 downloads or whatever it was,
Dude,
and it was
nice.
it took it cracked the top. At one point, it was like top 2 or 3 American baseball podcasts in the charts, like for that episode, because you got to remember that there are charts for baseball podcasts in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But this had that episode had cracked the American, like the top end of the American one. It was like it genuinely was like second
Nice.
or third. I've got a screenshot of it somewhere, but it was really cool. And I'm trying very hard now to get people on. I've always said about the show Stros Across the Globe that it's not a magazine show because you'll get your podcasts which do the sort of daily updates and weekly updates. My show is not about that. I want to give people the highest possible caliber Astros related guests to give them an insight into things that are not the everyday. I want to get into the motivations of these people. I want to understand where they're coming from. I want to understand what makes them tick, why they are who they are, and really dig beneath the surface. And I think it's cool because I don't think there's been an episode yet where I haven't had that. Haven't been able to succeed in having a conversation that goes that way. I loved the conversation with Julian Morales. I loved the conversation with Jeff Blum. It was really cool hearing about his emotions when he got traded. He got quite emotional at one point, and I like to hear that honesty that we
Mm-hmm.
not that he's not honest on broadcast, but that kind of just to hear the backstory, because we don't focus on that. We focus on what their jobs are and what they do, and the sort of the surface level of baseball. It's really really cool to hear about this, almost like their origin stories and what's brought them to this point. And I'm working very very hard to try and find more guests to do that. I missed out on a couple last year. Got beaten to the punch with a couple, and one thing I definitely don't want to do is I don't want to replicate other people's content. One, because it's slightly disrespectful to them, but two, because I feel like it's not. I don't want to tread water and just repeat the conversation. There's no point if someone's done an interview with an Astros player. I'd rather wait till another year passes and then do it with them. So do something and try and do it better in my own way then. So I've got a few avenues that I'm trying at the moment. It's very much been kind of feast or famine. So I'll go for long periods where I don't have any avenues that are open, and suddenly like two or three will open up at once, and it's really cool. So that's happened several times. It's been quite a gap since the last episode with Ryan Stanek, but I know it'll be worth the wait. Now I'm going to keep pushing. Like I said, I've got some really exciting ideas and different types of guests which I'm looking to get on, and once it happens, everyone out there be the first to know. And I can't wait for it. I love doing that show. I like doing it in a different way from other podcasts. Like I said, it's not your run of the mill show, which is just like sort of updating on things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not me. I can't commit to that kind of thing on a daily basis or weekly basis. So I want to give people a totally different, more insightful look.
There you go, man. That Evan Gaddis episode was iconic. I remember listening to it, and my mind was blown as an Astros fan.
Me too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine you having to conduct it, but also being like, "Whoa, it's insane, man!" Just took the world by storm. But dude, last question.
Yeah.
I know this has flown by, but what are your ultimate predictions for the Astros this year?
It's kind of changed over the last month because I think it is dependent on the bats finally waking up, but the pitching has been so good. You can't rely on the pitching to be this good for the whole season. It's inevitable there'll be some ups and downs, injuries or whatever. But I just think that if the bats get going, it's over. It's over for everyone.
Yeah.
Like honestly, if the bats can even sort of 60% replicate what they've done in the last 2-3 years, particularly, then yeah, it's game over. I mean, that's what we have to work out what it is. I know we're struggling against lefties. I don't know why that is. We're struggling against lefties, both righties and both right-handed and left-handed hitters are struggling against lefties for some reason, and we're just not able to. We've got that kind of rispitis, if you like, where we just can't get guys home with runners in scoring position. So it's. I'm hoping that they'll look at that at bat that Jordan had tonight and try and replicate that, because he was just he had the clutch moment and he took it with both hands, and he's absolute class. I mean, what an incredible player. So to go in a slightly long-winded way as ever from me, to answer your question about how far can the Astros go this year, the Astros can go the whole way. They can win it all. They definitely can. It's a case that whether they will depends on a few factors. Obviously, bats getting going, but just being able to have that stamina, mental stamina throughout the whole of October. It's one thing getting to October, which we seem to have mastered. Getting through the first round, which is thankfully something which we've been very, very good at. Again, I think teams would not want to play the Astros over in a best of 5, despite the fact that it's kind of arguably the most dangerous round for the favorite because it's shorter. I still think teams won't want to play us over 5. You get to the ALCS, who knows? The Yankees have been very, very good this year, way, way better than I thought they'd be. I already think it's shaping up for a rematch in the ALCS, and of course, we have to keep that perfect postseason record against them going. If it does come to that, I think we can. I think it would be a hell of a battle, but I think we can. It's just the problem is you get to the World Series again. Obviously, again, it's speaking from a position of immense privilege to be getting to the World Series 3 times in 5 years, but we just there's in the lot. I mean, both in 2019 and 2021, we didn't give a fair account of ourselves. With obviously in 2019. It was just weird not being able to win a game at home. It will always hurt. We should have won that series without question. And it's just like I don't want to go over it again because it just pisses me off talking about it. But like,
Yeah.
but trying to, even last year, I don't know what happened. We looked so good. We started that ALCS against the Red Sox, and we were getting destroyed by however they were doing it. They hitting multiple grand slams. We were looking like, oh wow, we're all at sea. Went to Fenway, and then we turned it around in that game with Jason Castro coming up with that huge hit
Oh
late in
yeah.
the game, and then we destroyed him in that ninth inning, and then the tide had completely turned, and we looked back to being ourselves. But then in the World Series, we just disappeared again. And don't get me wrong, the Braves pitched very well, but we
Mm-hmm.
didn't give a fair account of ourselves. And so getting into so what I'm saying is we can win it all. Do I think we'll win it all? I don't know, because I just think that if I can see us getting to the World Series again, to be honest, I can definitely see us getting to the World Series again. But it's just a case of can we do it? Because this team, and I'm still, I'm focusing on that core that's still there. They need another ring. They need another ring. They should have one by now. If we'd won 3 World Series in the last 5, 6 years, no one could have had any complaints. We've been a phenomenally consistent team. This team needs to get another one. They need to get another
Yeah.
one. And it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a long way to go. I'll be a bit annoying and sit on the fence. I'll say we'll get to the World Series. I won't tell you whether we'll win it or not.
Oh, there you go. Well, you saying that the Astros will make it to the World Series is much more than I would have said. I am only willing to go so far as a sixth straight ALCS.
Okay.
I'm not even willing to say World Series. Of course, that was my preseason prediction.
Hmm.
Once the postseason happens, like once it starts, literally anything can happen.
Yeah.
Best of 5, best of 7, best of 3. Any team can beat any team. Well,
Mm.
I guess the longer the series, the more.
Yeah. Generally, yeah.
Generally, I mean, a best of 3, anything can happen. Every once in a while, the Orioles sweep the Yankees, even though the Orioles don't amount to anything. But best of 5, best of 7, it's a few extra games. But I don't know. The Astros are still in the golden years, and I'm right there with you, George. I want them to win at least one more, because if
They
they
just
don't
got to get
win,
that one.
if
Mm.
they got to get one, and if they can't, then it's just like we're really
Yeah.
good at not making it.
Be a bit like that, but yeah, a bit like that Braves team throughout the '90s, where they won one World Series and then they were dominant in the well,
Oh yeah.
especially in the NL East, but like generally speaking, they were dominant in the National League, and they just couldn't, after they came up against a great Yankees team, but they couldn't get another ring, and yeah, I feel like it would be a crying shame if we don't get another one. I'm confident that we can. Obviously, the fact is, like you said, October is a totally different animal, and anything can happen, and that doesn't always bode well for the best team. The best team doesn't always win in October, so it's about who's hot. You get into October, you've got to get hot, and what we have to work out this time, whether it's about preserving arms like JV, because look at 2019, he won the Cy Young Award. He was
Mm-hmm.
incredible, but then he looked like he was out of gas in October. He looked like he was completely
Yeah.
out of gas, and I think that hurt us. And obviously that
Oh yeah.
that 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 it wasn't helped by Wade Miley completely disintegrating in September. But like
Mm-hmm.
it's just we have to have a plan, and I'm sure they have a plan, but we have to have a plan as to how to last the course. It's a brutal season, 162 games. I know that people get frustrated when Dusty Baker rests players, but I totally see the logic in it. We have to keep players fresh. Um, Form comes and goes, but you give yourself the best chances possible if you can be as fresh as you can. Everyone's beat up going into October, but you can minimize the impact of that and try and give yourself the best chance. And I think if we can do that, that's when it gets interesting, and we can hopefully see the best of these guys, because we want to see those. Obviously they haven't done it in the regular season so much yet, but we want to see those bats explode in October, because that would be fun. It would be fun to see us just completely take apart some high quality teams in October with both our pitching and hitting on all cylinders, firing.
Exactly, man. We will see. It's still going to be fun. But George, from across the pond, from London, England, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Absolute pleasure, loved it, and yeah, definitely keep in touch with you guys.
For sure, we will. We likewise. Go ahead, George. Tell our audience, where they can find
Yeah.
you. Plug whatever you want to plug, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Primarily on Twitter, it's at Astros Fans UK. Please do get following. I love having new followers, new connections, etc. On Instagram, it's UK Astros Fans. On Facebook, it's George Martin, which obviously is my name. With the display pic is like a Union Jack version of the Astros crest. Like I said, I'm on Reddit as well. I'm never there. Check out the podcast, Astros Across the Globe. It's on Megaphone. We've just recently changed our Apollo sort of login / setup, so I'll make sure to share that soon. But yeah, do check out the past episodes because like I said, they're not date dependent so much because they're more general discussion, so they kind of have repeat listening value as opposed to a daily broadcast which is dated within like a couple of days with the way baseball goes. But yeah, get at me and look forward to speaking to you guys on that.
There you go. Everybody check this guy out. He's one of the most passionate baseball fans I know. And it just proves that baseball has no bounds. But guys, thank y'all for watching the show live. Thank y'all for tuning in, listening to this on our channel as well. Subscribe to No Doubter so you can hear more interviews like this and our weekly updates. Leave us a 5-star review, like us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Join our Patreon if you've been listening to us for a while. Consider supporting the show. We would really appreciate it. Check out our merch store. You get mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, baseball shirts, phone cases, anything you could want. All these links are in the description below. Check it out. Travis T-Bone Laughley, land the plane. Let's do this.
Would be honored to. Friends, it's been another great episode of No Doubter. We've enjoyed tremendously having George on here talking baseball, getting our first ever international correspondent here on the sport, talking it here. When baseball truly is for everyone, no matter where you are, what you're doing, and whatever you're doing in your life, you can play with the spirit of baseball as well. What you're doing in your life. So whether it's with your friends, your family, your job, your hobbies, give it your all. Bat 400. Always swing for the fences. We love you all. And we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.